Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. From now through May 6th, if you use that promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing to win a War of the Spark booster box. See the description below for details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and we are starting the second week of War of the Spark previews. A lot of cards to look at. As always, if you're curious as to the source of any of these cards, just check out the description below. You'll find all the information down there. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Raw Storm Conduit. Now, this was leaked last week, and we talked about it in another video, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one. I remember last week I mentioned that maybe this and a few other cards we were seeing could push Thousand Year Storm a little bit. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I guess we'll see. Here's another card that we previously talked about that was leaked but now officially revealed. It is Rolast Apex Hybrid. This one is a mythic. But I will say this, I think it's a really cool card. However, am I going to play this in Standard over Hydroid Krasis in most circumstances? Probably not. This card comes to us from a Russian language preview, Convoke the Wings, loosely translated. This is actually pretty solid. First off, it's really cheap. It's a great combat trick, but it's nice defensively if your creatures are already tapped, or if you have to deal with some flyers and surprise your opponent, or it's great on the offense if you're trying to get over a big wall of creatures and you're in a board stall. This could help you close out a game. The versatility, the cheap casting cost, it lets you put pressure on planeswalkers, which could be important with the uncommon planeswalkers out there. This could go along with some convoke spells as well. This is a fantastic uncommon for Drafter Sealed. I also think this could see play in Standard, maybe in an Angels build to help them keep the pressure on. Next we have Sunblade Angel. I think this is a very solid limited uncommon. I don't think it goes much further than that though. I do like all the abilities on it for you Soul Flayer fans out there. You might want to have some fun with this casually. It is a good limited card though. Drafter Sealed, I'm going to be happy to play this. I think in Standard it's just a little too expensive and a little too fragile. I think by the time you play this, there's a lot of ways for opponents to get rid of it with 3 toughness. 6 is a little high for something like this. Eternal Skylord. Okay, this is another kind of sweet uncommon that we got today. This one is a 3/3 for 5, but there's more to it. Amass 2, so you're actually getting 5/5 power and toughness on the battlefield for 5. 2 of that is in the air because zombie tokens you control have flying now. This is also a zombie wizard, which are 2 very relevant creature types. Now, in limited, obviously, this is going to be awesome just because of the economy. Even if you don't have any other zombie tokens or other ways to make zombie tokens, this card is still very, very playable there. Could it see play in Standard? Maybe. If the zombie deck ends up being a little more token focused, then perhaps. Although I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll have to kind of see where the meta goes. Kasmina Enigmatic Mentor. Okay, here's one of those uncommon planeswalkers, and this might be my favorite of the uncommon ones so far. This one is not playing around. 5 loyalty for 4 coming into play. Spells your opponents cast that target a creature or planeswalker you control cost 2 more to cast, and that -2 creates 2/2 blue wizard creature tokens, and you get to loot on top of it. We do know wizards can be a relevant creature type at times. There's a lot happening here for 4 mana. This could be a first pickable uncommon for you in a lot of draft packs. This will just be awesome and limited generally. What about Standard? Could it get there? I think it could. Maybe out of sideboards and mono blue. That's where I'd want to test it out. It doesn't fit into every deck, obviously. If you don't have a lot of creatures and or planeswalkers to protect, then you might not need this. But something like Mono Blue might appreciate this out of the sideboard at times. Commander, also those blue efficiency decks, I'd like to try it out there as well. Kasmina's Transmutation. This is pretty solid removal for blue for Drafter Sealed. It only costs 2. It's not an instant, obviously, because it's an aura. But it does deal with a lot of problems. However, one problem it doesn't deal with is anything with +1/+1 counters on it, which could get a little awkward at times. So you know you're going to have the zombie armies out there, which are powered by +1/+1 counters. Also, the Simic colors are still messing around with +1/+1 counters. There could be many times where you just come up against something that this isn't a good answer for, but I could still see myself running this card more often than not. In Standard, I think there's better removal spells out there than this one, although who knows, maybe another sideboard card you could try in mono blue and just kind of see how it plays in the upcoming meta. Shriek Diver. This is a good limited card. I don't have a lot to say about it. 2/1 for 3 is a little fragile, but it gives you flying. Sometimes that evasion is very important in your draft or sealed games, and you can pay 1 to give it haste, which is kind of nice. It's a zombie as well. Bolt Bend. Is that Kefnet the Mindful getting hit there on the card? I think it might be. This is actually a pretty sweet card. If you have a large creature in play, it's only going to cost you 1 red. Remember, with these deflection style spells, they can actually be used to counter magic. Now, you can't turn a counter spell back on itself, but you can turn it onto Bolt Bend, and that will save whatever you're trying to play. I could see this actually maybe seeing a little bit of sideboard play in Standard, especially if you could get in a situation where some of the time you're only spending 1 for this. This is also something I'd be happy to play in Draft or Sealed. You know at some point you're going to have a deflection target, even if it's just a removal spell. Demolish. Okay, this is a reprint. You're pretty familiar with it. I always like this card in Draft or Sealed because I can bring it in if my opponent's getting a little bit greedy with color, or I have a problematic artifact that I need to deal with. It can be helpful. It just starts off in my sideboard typically. Turret Ogre. This one's not too exciting, but it's fine and limited. Nothing special here. A 4/3 for 4 with reach, so it does deal pretty well with flying creatures. If I come up against some flyers, maybe I side it in for game 2 or game 3. When it enters the battlefield, if I have a large creature, it will deal 2 to each opponent. Yeah, that's not too impressive, but definitely playable. Challenger Troll. Great card for limited. 6/5 for 5. You're getting lots of power toughness for what you're paying for it. Each creature you control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. That includes this one. So no stringing together all your small creatures to take out this large creature or any of my large creatures. That's pretty decent. Could this see some play in Standard? Maybe. It just, again, depends on the meta. Maybe this could push Teamer monsters. You could play this with like Rhythm of the Wild, Kiora Behemoth Beckoner, Incubation Druid. It's at least worth testing. Forced Landing. I do think this will see Standard play. This is very solid green removal. It only costs 2. Now it can only hit a flyer, so it's definitely a sideboard card. But it is good against things like Arclight Phoenix. Because even though it doesn't exile, it moves that card to the bottom of the deck, so it is, for all practical purposes, almost the same thing. Obviously, if you're trying to mill your opponent or something, that wouldn't be good, but I think 9 times out of 10, you're going to be really happy to run this. Cheap, instant speed, deals with some significant issues that are in the format. In Draft or Sealed, this will be a fine card. It's more of a sideboard card again, though, because you want to wait and see if you're up against a lot of flyers before you bring it in. Steady Aim. This is a limited combat trick. Again, not a whole lot to say about it. It's cheap. It could surprise your opponent. And if you don't main deck it, remember to side it in against a lot of flyers because this does give the creature reach until end of turn as well. Another card that plays well with Convoke, which I assume we will see more of. Feather the Redeemed. Okay, this is very, very solid. Legendary creature angel with a very interesting ability. And it's cheap. 2 white and red for a 3/4 flyer. Nothing wrong with that. Great economy. So what do you do with this thing? Well, just the fact that any instant or sorcery that you cast on one of your creatures, including this one again, is going to basically get juggled from that point forward. So if you have pump spells or combat tricks unlimited, this is going to be insane for you in Draft or Sealed. This will be a windmill slam, first pick in your draft pack, no doubt. What about Standard? Could it make it there in an angel deck or something like that? Maybe. Pump spells are not as great, obviously, in Standard because they are very contingent on board state. However, what about those fight spells? Fight spells also target your creatures, so they would work here, and you would be able to recycle them. Could be good against some decks, so maybe you just bring this in out of the sideboard, or maybe you main deck this and just bring the fight spells in out of the sideboard. Again, definitely worth testing, I think. Commander, there's so many crazy things you can do with this card. Aurelia's Fury, Sunforger, already a very popular commander card. You can probably come up with a lot of different great spells that are going to interact very favorably with this one. Rawl's Outburst. I like this one a lot. It feels a little expensive at first when you see 4 converted mana costs, but look what's happening here. It is an instant that can do 3 damage to any target, including the face, and then you get to look at your top 2 cards. One goes to your hand, one goes to the graveyard. Perfect for, is it Drake decks or is it Phoenix decks? You can play an instant, do damage, and then you're able to restock your hand a little bit. This will replace itself. Then maybe if you're lucky, you could hit like a jumpstart spell to throw in your graveyard. I don't think those decks want 4 of these necessarily, but they might want to run a couple. In Draft or Sealed, this thing is going to be a monster as well. Very high pick uncommon for draft. Solar Blaze. Interesting card here. It's a 4 mana board sweep, but it is conditional. Each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So if it has high toughness, you're not going to be able to take out the creature. There are a lot of important creatures right now in the standard format that do have higher toughness than they have power. And that could be a little bit awkward, but this is still a 4 mana board sweep. I think it has a chance to see a little standard play. It just depends on where the meta goes. If you happen to have a lot of high toughness creatures in the meta, then of course it's not going to fit in very well. But down the road at some point, if you have more lower toughness creatures, this could show up, and then the meta may adjust for it pretty quickly. But if that's the case, it might still see a little play here or there from time to time. The other thing that could be interesting would something like this push the Arcades High Alert deck in Standard a little bit. Again, maybe worth trying out. I'm a little skeptical. I think it's a long shot, but it's something to think about. In Limited, this is very solid, and again, maybe it's not going to hit everything in Draft or Sealed, but you know you have this in your deck. You can build around it to some extent, and it's going to hit enough things that you're going to be happy with this. Commander, it could be fine. It's a little awkward that it does not line up with Arcades or Doran colors, though. Parhelion II. Okay, this is kind of sweet. Awesome legendary vehicle here. It looks like a big flying anvil. This has got power behind it. Flying, first strike, vigilance, and whenever this attacks, you create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. So it just kind of spits out Serra Angels. The crew cost is 4, and the casting cost is 8 altogether. It feels a little too expensive for Standard, sadly, because this could be a lot of fun. But don't worry, there's a lot of places you can play this. Obviously, this is a rare that's going to be an easy first pick in most packs where you open it up and find it, right? This has double white in the casting cost, but you're going to try to make this work if you can because it's just so powerful. This can definitely end games really quickly. I think Commander is where you'll have the most fun with this, though. You can put it in an Angel deck or really any deck playing white. This thing is amazing. We also got to look at another set of basic lands today. This time, instead of a wide view, we're zooming in a little bit. Here's your plains, island, swamp, mountain, and forest. All right, those are the previews for today. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be back. We'll do this all again and look at all the cards that come out over the next 24 hours or so. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.